Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
In just a couple of months, it will be 5 years since the big changes were made in what used to be the state of Jammu and Kashmir. First of all, the state's special constitution status was taken away with changes in the constitution and the laws. So all of India's constitution and laws were automatically made applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. There was no special status or treatment. Second, the state as it used to exist was split into two union territories. One being Jammu and Kashmir, which had the bulk of the population, and second, Leh and Kargil combined, which was the union territory of Ladakh. In the map of India, that then includes Gilgit, Baltistan or northern areas, which generally we see as the larger area of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Now, in these 5 years, there have been many issues and many questions raised. I have also raised many of these questions in a bunch of writings I have done. And the essence of those questions, the most repeated complaint, for example, was that democracy had not yet been restored in the region. That, all right, you've made these changes. We welcomed the material abrogation of Article 370. It wasn't abrogated as in taken off the statute book, but it was the material abrogation in the sense that it refused to have any meaning in Jammu and Kashmir. That's all right. We said that's a good idea. It should have gone because every government since the 1950s had been diluting it, and now Modi government had finished it. So far so good. But then that did not mean a denial of democracy to the people of Kashmir, because India's larger argument before the world was that where is the need now to talk about self-determination? People of Kashmir go to elections all the time, and that is also self-determination, because remember, every candidate that contests an election in India has to swear by Indian constitution. So that itself is a statement. I will give you a fair bit of lowdown, and when I finished, I will also bring in two key people. That is Ananya Bhardwaj, who you know well. She is right now on the ground in Kashmir Valley. She'll be joining in from there. And also Amogh Rohmetra. Amogh Rohmetra has travelled in the Jammu region and also in Anantnag constituency just a couple of weeks back. Amogh also happens to be from Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, from Jammu. He's a native of the state or the union territory. So both of them will be answering some questions for us. So please do stay with me. Meanwhile, do suffer me for a few more minutes. That said, the question was why democracy was not being restored, which means elections were not being held, elected bodies were not being set up or not being allowed to come into the union territory, what was now the two union territories. Third, how come statehood was not being restored? Why was it going to be a union territory forever? We know that after that, this case went up to Supreme Court also. Supreme Court accepted, they approved the changes made to the constitution vis-a-vis Article 370, etc. But they also said democracy should be restored, elections should be held, and the deadline they gave was September. That's the election in the state/union territory. You can choose to call what you want. What the Supreme Court did not insist on was that statehood should be restored, but I would say that that idea was implicit. We've also seen statements from Home Minister Amit Shah and the Prime Minister indicating that at some point after Parliament elections, one, there will be state elections very soon or union territory elections very soon, and maybe once an assembly is elected within the union territory, statehood also will be restored. So that lies in the future. However, the first step in that direction is taking place now. There have been some district council or DDC or district development council elections, etc., but no real election. This is the first election. These parliament elections are the first full-fledged elections under the watch of Election Commission of India. And that is why, although it's only 6 seats in what used to be all of Jammu and Kashmir, it's a small contribution to national parliament. In fact, it's less than half the contribution of a state like Punjab, or less than half, say, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, about a third of Telangana, so on and so forth. But it is Jammu and Kashmir, or what used to be Jammu and Kashmir, and that's why it has that much more importance. Also, that elections are taking place there. Elections taking place in Jammu and Kashmir was always a story, because militants, separatists would announce a boycott, they'll carry out acts of sabotage, terrorism, candidates will be under threat, and very few people often would come out to vote. Sometimes in single digits, or sometimes in low single digits. That's why historically the voting percentage in Kashmir, particularly in Kashmir Valley, in all of Jammu and Kashmir, what again erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir, which is now Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, and within Jammu and Kashmir, the Jammu region and the Kashmir Valley region, overall percentage, voting percentage was always seen as indicative of popular participation, but it's the voting percentage in the valley which was seen as the biggest indicator of the mood of the people in Kashmir in terms of what was happening between India and Pakistan. A higher percentage was always seen as an answer to Pakistan and backers of Pakistan and those in the international community which questioned India's not just hold over Kashmir, but also India's management, leadership of Kashmir, and also India's either denial of rights or grant of rights to the people of Kashmir. So if you see that, then these three seats of the valley, and now the valley seats have got redesigned a little bit, and I will tell you about that. These three seats of the valley, one has already gone to the polls, that's Srinagar. It had nearly 40%, upwards of 39% polling, which is very good. It is the highest number since 1996. The highest number almost as high as 1996. That is very creditable. The first real election after 5th of August 2019. Remember, 2019 parliament election had preceded those changes in parliament. In fact, it's the parliament that came as a result of the 2019 general elections that made these changes in the constitutional status of Jammu and Kashmir. The first election, I told you, nearly 40% voting. The second will go to the polls on Monday. In fact, the second Baramulla in the valley will go to the polls on Monday. Also on Monday, going to the polls will be Ladakh. That is Leh and Kargil. The two seats of Jammu region have already polled in the past. What will now remain is the sixth seat. That is the seat of Anantnag, or what is called as Anantnag Rajouri. That will go to the polls on the 25th. In fact, it was supposed to go to the polls on the 7th of May. But there was sort of unseasonal or unexpected snowfall on the old Mughal road that connects the valley with the districts of, over the Pir Panjal hump with the districts of Poonch and Rajouri. Because that road was blocked, this poll was postponed from 7th of May to the 25th May. When that happens, all of the valley will be over and all of the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir, or today both union territories, will be over. And everybody, particularly the international community, will be watching polling percentages very, very carefully. Now, what's also happened is that a kind of new politics has come into being, particularly in the valley. So first of all, a very important point to note is that neither the Congress nor the BJP has put up a candidate in the valley, in the three valley seats. Now, both might have different reasons. The BJP has not quite explained it. The BJP is not in alliance with any party in the valley, but it looks like that they have tacit support or implicit support to one group, that is the Apni Party. Apni Party was founded by Altaf Bukhari, formerly of PDP. It looks like the BJP has implicit support for that, because the Home Minister Amit Shah also, while in Kashmir, said that you don't vote for NC, National Conference, that is the Abdullah family party, PDP, which is the Mufti family party, or the Congress party, which you might say is the Gandhi family party, but you can vote for anybody else. That was seen as a coded message to vote for Apni Party. Now, obviously, one reason the BJP is not there is that BJP would not have got any votes, would have struggled to find candidates, and maybe BJP would rather wait for another opportunity in the future. And the Congress Party for the simple reason that they are in partnership with National Conference. National Conference is stronger in the valley. So why would the Congress party put up a candidate there? National conference is there. And in the process, they also get partnership with the national conference in other seats. That is the 2 seats of Jammu region and also the Ladakh seat, although there's been a little bit of drama there that we will talk about subsequently. Now see these 3 seats in the Kashmir Valley. Now when you see these 3 seats and you see the lineup for these 3 seats, the one thing you will understand is, in fact, that follows very simply by looking at this, is that this election also marks a generational shift in the politics of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly the politics of Kashmir Valley, which has dominated the politics of all of Jammu and Kashmir. Because over time, we've seen 2 dynasties, the 2 dynasts, that is Mufti Muhammad Saeed and Farooq Abdullah. In fact, I should have put Farooq Abdullah first because the Abdullah dynasty is the first one. So Farooq Abdullah, Mufti Muhammad Saeed, both are not contesting. One is not around, unfortunately. The other has decided not to contest. So those 2 are not in contest. However, both the dynasties are contesting. Omar Abdullah is the candidate in Baramulla and Mehbooba Mufti is the candidate in Anantnag. The third towering figure of Kashmir politics, Ghulam Nabi Azad of the Congress party, or at this point formerly of the Congress party, he's not contesting, but you can see that he's preparing for something, maybe for state elections, and he's supporting some candidates, especially, but none of the candidates from NC, PDP, etc., some independent type candidates. So you can see that he's building his politics as well, but this is a generational shift in the state's politics. The other important thing is delimitation. Now, some of these constituencies, particularly in the valley, have changed a great deal. Now, the biggest change is in the constituency of what used to be Anantnag, which goes to the polls now on the 25th. Anantnag earlier used to be purely a valley constituency. Now it's no longer so. To Anantnag now have been added Rajouri and Poonch districts, which earlier used to be part of the Jammu constituency. Now, Jammu itself has grown in population sufficiently. So, Jammu is a constituency by itself. Udhampur is the other constituency in the Jammu region, which also includes Doda Kishtwar region, whereas Rajouri and Poonch districts have been added to Anantnag. So, Anantnag is called the Anantnag Rajouri constituency. What does it do? It changes the nature of Anantnag constituency. It changes the demographic. For example, it brings in a sizable additional Hindu vote into the constituency because Rajouri and Poonch have Muslim majority, but they are not like the valley. Hindus are still a sizable minority there. They are a minority, but a sizable minority there. So those votes come in. Second, ethnically and linguistically, even the Muslims of Poonch, Rajouri, and then tribals, Gujars, Bakarwals, Pahadi communities, they speak different languages. They are culturally different from Kashmiri Muslims of the valley. That's how this has become ethnically a very diverse constituency and not just a valley constituency. That is a big change there. And that's why one of the candidates in this constituency actually is a Gujar. That is Umar Abdullah's party's candidate, NC Conference, backed by the Congress party, Mia Altaf. He is from the Gujar community, which is much more numerous in the Rajouri Poonch area. He is also a traditional peer, or holy man with his following. That is the change in his constituency. When it was fully a valley constituency, this used to have very low voting percentages often. This is also where Mufti Muhammad Saeed used to win from. PDP's Mehbooba Mufti is contesting from this constituency. The other constituencies where changes have taken place because of delimitation. If Anantnag has Rajouri and Poonch added, it must have lost something. So what it loses is, it loses the entire Pulwama district. Entire Pulwama district used to be part of Anantnag. In fact, if you drive from Srinagar to Anantnag, you drive past Pulwama. All that has now become a part of the Srinagar constituency. And yet again, there's been one more adjustment. Shopian district, which had 2 assembly segments. One has remained in Srinagar. The other has gone to Anantnag. Baramulla, there might be some adjustments here and there, but there isn't really a major change. So these are the 3 constituencies. I told you how these constituencies have changed. I've also told you what the party lineup and the alliance lineup is. That said, we have 2 key people, 2 key correspondents. One is Ananya Bhardwaj, who you know well, Amogh Rohmetra, again you know him well. Amogh Rohmetra actually is from Jammu. He belongs to Jammu. He's traveled in Anantnag constituency. Also, he knows Jammu region well and has traveled there. Ananya right now is in Kashmir Valley. She reported on the first election, that is the Srinagar. She is right now in the Baramulla region, and she will have an on-the-spot feel as well. So I will now turn to them and we'll ask each one just a couple of questions briefly to give you a better idea of what's going on the ground. So now that you've heard me for a bit, as I promised you, two of our key correspondents who've been on the ground and who've seen things on the ground. So there is Ananya Bhardwaj and Amogh Rohmetra. Ananya, you get to go first because you are on the ground right now. You've seen the polling and the process in Srinagar. So tell us a little bit about that and also what you've been seeing in Pulwama. I know that you're sitting in Patan right now, which is bang in the middle of Baramulla constituency.
Right. So we had not seen that sort of an enthusiasm among people to vote. That was a significant shift from what I had seen on the ground in the past. I've come to Kashmir several times, including when I was here to cover after the abrogation of Article 370. So there's a significant shift in the way people are coming out to vote, and they're talking about a democratic process. So right now we are in Baramulla. I'm in Pattan, and they go to poll on 20th of May. And on the streets, you can see that so many of these parties, who are three main parties that are are contesting this election. NC, one independent candidate, Engineer Rashid, PDP. They are all campaigning, and there are too many people joining the rallies. Locals are coming out. Essentially talking about how they need a political representative in Kashmir, and that being the main reason why they will definitely go out to vote. So, in fact, in Srinagar, when we went around, and you must have seen our video also, in which we spoke to a lot of voters as to why they have come out to vote. There was queues and queues of people, outside the polling stations. In fact, we also did a story on how there was in districts like Pulwama and Shopian that were marred by militancy. People have voted in large numbers. In 2019, it was a mere 3%, 2% voting, and this time Shopian saw 45% voting. And Baramulla, they say it's going to be even better than Srinagar.
Yeah, and there is this interesting candidate, Engineer Rashid. So, sir, tell us about the candidates in Baramulla, and particularly about Engineer Rashid, because he seems to be getting a lot of. If I look at the videos that you're sending, pictures you're sending, also what I'm watching on social media, looks like he's getting the most excitement on the street.
That's true. His symbol is pressure cooker. So wherever we go, what we hear is कि इस बार pressure cooker की सीटी लगेगी. So this is what we get from the ground, because everybody is talking about the pressure cooker. Yes, he's very popular among the youngsters especially. So we attended one of the rallies. The story is going to be out soon. We attended one of the rallies in this district, in fact in Budgam, where we also spoke to his son. His son's name is Abrar, and he's the one who's leading the campaign for his father. Engineer Rashid is in jail. He was arrested by NIA in 2019, so he remains in jail. In fact, Abrar also told us that they didn't even have the money to file for the candidature. So the people in his village, which is Langate, which is his constituency, they pulled in money to ensure that the candidature is filed. And all this crowd, he said, that you are seeing on the ground is all organic. It is, we don't have the money like these big parties, NC, PDP, where we can we can hire cars or tractors. So these are people who are coming out, pulling in money for refreshments, making their own posters, getting them printed, and youngsters coming together to support Engineer Rashid. Now, Engineer Rashid, when we speak to the voters as to why he's so popular, they tell us that he has always been a voice of Kashmir. Although the opposition parties are saying that he has a little separatist stand, and he talks about he's also arrested by NIA in a case of terror funding, but he is one face that is becoming extremely popular as far as Baramulla district is concerned. Another key point here is that most of these people who are in his rally are all first time voters. So they tell us that they have never voted again, but this time they are going to vote essentially because they want their own person, a person who can talk about their rights, a person who can talk about their problems, grievances in the parliament. That's why they want to see Engineer Rashid in sitting in the parliament as their MP. The third candidate in Baramulla district is Sajad Lone, who is from the People's Conference. He also is relatively popular. Popular, yes. He's also attracting a lot of crowds, but here by a margin, Engineer Rashid is able to garner attract a lot many more youngsters and people, and that's their rallies are being like getting a lot of crowds of late.
So, so Engineer Rashid, or whose full name in fact is Sheikh
Yes.
Abdul Rashid, he's been in jail as an NSA detainee for almost 5 years now. He's contesting from jail. As I understand, his son is leading the campaign. So, describe for us now where you are sitting, what place is it, and how have you managed to block traffic off on this road?
So we are in Patan right now. We were returning after spending the day in Baramulla. After spending the day in Baramulla, now we are returning to Srinagar. So this village was on the way, and I have just deployed two people there, requesting them to not let anyone in because I'm sitting bang in the middle of the road, and they are cooperating, as I can see.
Well, I think I saw a couple of cars go through, so
Yes,
that's not as bad as you might imagine. And
right. See,
I don't see one more has just gone past. So, kya Ananya, your dadagiri doesn't run. You know, I can tell you some of the others, particularly on TV media, whole block of traffic on highways. But no, we should not block off traffic on highways. Amog, Amog, this is your state in so many ways. You've traveled in Anantnag, also in Jammu area. How is this election different from what we've seen in the past, and what are the important takeaways? Uh, and what is it about this election that tells us this is post 370?
So since this election is after 2019 changes, which is after the abrogation of Article 370, of course, the biggest issue, the biggest talking point is Article 370, even after 5 years. Now, there are different sides. In Kashmir, you see more voices which speak against the abrogation of Article 370, but in Jammu, both the seats that have already gone to polls in phase one and phase two, Udhampur and Jammu, BJP was primarily making a big issue out of Article 370. And another important thing there was that while BJP was trying to nationalize election as much as it could, for example, when you went on highways, you could see billboards with only the prime minister's picture there, not the candidate, not the two-term MP from Udhampur, which is Dr. Jitendra Singh, who's a union minister of state in the prime minister's office. Whereas the Congress was trying to localize the campaign as much as possible. Now, there are two seats. One is Jammu, one is Udhampur. I'd say out of the 5 seats across Jammu and Kashmir, probably the lowest campaigning was seen in the seat of Jammu. One of the possible reasons could be that both candidates from BJP and Congress's side are the same what they were in 2019. So the two-time MP Jugal Kishore Sharma is the BJP's candidate, and for Congress it's their working president Raman Bhalla, who's once again their candidate who lost in 2019 by a big margin. BJP won both Jammu and Udhampur seats with over 50% vote share in their pockets, and they've still repeated. And to some extent, when I spoke to Congress leaders, they were not even able to find a good candidate. That's what they told me. But when you talk about the Udhampur seat has drawn a lot of attention. Until maybe 3 to 4 months back, it was seen as a cakewalk for the Bharatiya Janata Party. They had a strong candidate, two-term MP. Uh, Prime Minister Modi has an appeal across Jammu region. But then Congress brought from outside Chaudhry Lal Singh. Chaudhry Lal Singh was in Congress till 2014. Then in 2014, he was not given a ticket. He left the party. He joined BJP. He became a minister in the state. Then, after a lot of controversies, while he was in BJP, he left the party. He formed his own party, and now, right before elections, he joined Congress again. To some extent, that energized the cadre there in Udhampur Doda seat, which is being seen very keenly. And the third seat, which is the Anantnag Rajouri seat, I mainly traveled to Rajouri and Punch areas, which have now been added to the Anantnag seat. There, of course, a very important factor is the Pahadi reservation. uh, Modi government earlier this year, they announced that they notified the reservation for the Pahadi community, which is the Pahadi speaking community, which constitutes about 56% of the population in Rajouri and in Poonch. And the main, to some extent, political analysts believe the calculation there is, if Anantnag and Rajouri, if Rajouri and Poonch votes the way they do, which is around 60 to 70% voting takes place, and somewhere in South Kashmir where the voting is traditionally low, people of Rajouri and Poonch may find themselves as kingmakers for the first time. Earlier they were with Jammu seat, but that is not the case anymore.
So, Amogh, please explain what is the political objective or motivation in this delimitation of the old Anantnag constituency, which was a pure valley constituency, and changing its demographic and ethnic mix so decisively.
Right. So traditionally, we know BJP has been very strong and very dominant lately in the Jammu region, whether it is the Udhampur seat, Jammu seat. And now, with this reservation to Pahadi speaking community, they also became a player in the Anantnag Rajouri seat. But on the other hand, when you talk about Kashmir, BJP is barely a player. They usually tend to field their candidates in Kashmir. This time they haven't, but they in most of the seats either they are fourth, fifth, sixth, or even seventh in a lot of seats. But this time with Anantnag and Rajouri, what was thought out of it is that this will be a gateway for BJP to enter Kashmir. Had their candidate been there and won this seat, this would have been BJP's gateway into Kashmir. And we have to remember, right after this elections, there would be also assembly elections. BJP is trying to garner support, garner their cadre, and motivate them. And they are working very hard on this seat so that this can have some effect, some spilling impact even in the Kashmir Valley.
That's a good point. I would also suggest that this is also a way of getting away from this earlier stress over voting percentages in the valley seats by bringing in a sizable number of voters who are traditionally heavy voters, so that the voting percentages in the valley seats begin to look better. And that's how people have talked about changing the demographic mix of all of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But in this case, demographics are being shuffled or adjusted within the state, and that seems to me to be the larger political objective. So, Ananya, you've been in Ladakh, you've just spent some time there. How do you see the situation there now, and what impact will this leh leh Kargil binary have?
So I have reported from Kargil and Leh both. And last time when I was there, that is last month, I was told that Leh and Kargil are both on the same page as far as the demand for statehood is concerned. And in fact, there has been a history of both Leh and Kargil having their differences because, of course, there is more territory in Leh, but the population in Kargil is more, and it is a Muslim population, more Muslim population in Kargil. So that is why one of the demands was also two candidates, one from Leh and one for Ladakh for the parliamentary elections as MPs. And although the two did come on the same page for a while, but right now we can see that again there's a rift where Kargil wants to field their own candidate, and that has been going on for a while. It is, I mean, in Leh the support is behind Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. In Kargil, they did support Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, but right now, when we speak to Kargil leaders, they don't say anything. They don't say any much about it. So, of course, there is some sort of differences that are coming out in the public domain because of this rift that has always been there. So it remains to be seen what happens in this election.
Amog, you know the state well. Uh, so once again, you think this is some kind of a sharp move, maybe inspired by the BJP, uh, to get the entire Kargil unit of NC, which is a partner of the Congress, and Congress has the candidate in the Ladakh seat, for them to break away. So, first of all, do you think you see the BJP hand in this? And second, do you now see the Muslims of Kargil Valley voting on purely religious basis, and doesn't matter if in the process the seat goes to the BJP, which has a strong candidate in Leh?
So I'll try to answer both your questions with two key data points. Firstly, both in 2014 and 2019, BJP won the Ladakh seat. Their candidate was from Leh, but the candidate could manage only 30% of the votes. Primarily, votes in Ladakh, which is the Muslim dominated area and which has more voters, votes were getting split between different candidates. Now, this is one thing that BJP was benefiting out of the split in votes in Kargil. Kargil had multiple candidates in 2014, in 2019 also, but this time Kargil has only one candidate, which is the rebel candidate, the independent candidate that has come up. Now, the second important key data point is that within the district of Leh and in the district of Kargil, people who voted, 90% of them voted within their district. So if there were 100 voters in Leh, 90 of them voted for a candidate from Leh. If there were 100 voters in Kargil, 90 of them voted for a candidate from Kargil. So that to some extent explains that if the votes are going to consolidate from Kargil behind the independent candidate, that can be an issue for both India Alliance and the NDA candidate or the BJP candidate. Now, the second and one more thing here is BJP seemed down and out in the seat until some time back. Uh, because of the protest. Second, there was a sort of rebellion within their ranks after they changed their incumbent candidate. But now the BJP unit has united for one. And second, all these Kargil votes, had the independent candidate not been in fray, would have most likely gone to, not all of them, but most of them would have gone behind Congress, because Kargil is NC's stronghold and NC and Congress are in alliance. With an independent candidate, with a candidate from Kargil, Congress will not benefit out of these votes from Kargil. So, to some extent, that does work in favor of the BJP.
That, that's a good point. I think we have to conclude this at this point. Ananya, you have to also get going. You are on the field. We have to free you up from this. Having said that, only one thing, Amogh, I will just remind our viewers that Lal Singh, who's now the Congress candidate from Udhampur, who you mentioned is doing, has brought back some energy. He earned, he did many things in the last few years, and he earned not exactly fame, but he earned much infamy because he carried out those marches in support of the accused in the Kathua child's rape and murder case. So it's a bit of a,
because of which
yeah, it's a bit,
because of which he had to resign as a sitting minister
yeah,
from the
so
BJP.
he resigned from the BJP, but at the same time, he's now been adopted by the Congress party. So it's not something that speaks very well for the Congress party as well, because it looks like politics में सब जायज है. Everything is acceptable in politics to everybody. So it doesn't look like anybody had any moral argument left anymore. That said, the key thing is elections in Kashmir. The key thing says that Kashmir or Jammu and Kashmir, in this case Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh, all of them are seeing their first experience of full-fledged elections and democracy since the change in their status in 2019. And I think you should both consider yourselves fortunate. You have the reporter's luck. Both of you have got to spend time on the field watching this really historic turn. So thank you very much. And I think we'll speak again. We'll do a similar discussion again before the last round of voting takes place.